We'll be right back with a page about Julie's granddaughter. Well, there are so many ways to tell a story, and it doesn't just have to be in a scrapbook album. It can also be on your wall. So, Julie, you've brought this beautiful project for the wall.
Well, thank you for saying it's pretty, but this is my granddaughter, and she wanted something bright and cheery and bling, and I saw this beautiful tie-dyed glitter paper, but I wanted to embellish it even more, and it's going on her wall. It's not going in an album because I want more people to see it. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a pattern, and I'm using templates, and the pattern is for the flowers that you see down the right-hand side of that scrapbook paper. Now, I'm using this flower template, and there's lots of different kinds.
And I noticed that the flower sort of looks like the beautiful design, the butterfly or something that's on her face, right?
Yes, face painting at Disney World. It was so much fun. So anyway, you go all the way around the template, okay, and I've done this on the other side. So let me just turn it over for us. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to trace this pattern onto inkjet transparency. Okay. Now the thing about inkjet transparency and using it as an embellishment is you can trace over anything, you know, something in a magazine, or you can make a rubber stamp design, and then we're going to trace on the front. Now it has a rough surface on the back, but the front side of the transparency is smooth, and that's what I'm doing the outline on. Now I'm going around the pattern, and you don't have to be exact, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Now you're using a permanent paint marker that's going to work on that slick surface of the transparency,
this is a paint marker, and it is going to stick on here, so it is very important. Now I would do the whole pattern all the way around, and then I would set it aside to dry. So Julie, let me give that to you.
I'm going to take that from you. Thank you.
You might notice I also put the title on there too, because I used that to copy the title from. Now here we've got the pattern already traced. Now I'm going to turn it over.
To the rough side.
To the rough side, right. And now I'm going to use the color. So we'll use some green. We'll do this middle flower right here.
Is painting on glass when you paint from behind.
I love painting on glass. One thing, you don't have to prepare the surface. And see, I'm just coloring in really roughly because from the front, you're not going to be able to see if I go over the lines. Exactly. So, and we'll make this a pretty purple flower. And just go over it, just some nice strokes. It's best not to scribble. I like to make long, even strokes, and so that paint will be nice.
And I love the vibrant colors of these paint pens.
Smooth. And these are actually metallic, so they glisten. And you know what? In these paint markers, there's so many different colors to choose from, which makes it really cool. Now, I have one already done here. And what we could actually do, as on the sample, we could add some dots and squiggles, but I thought let's go ahead and assemble the scrapbook page.
Let's do it.
So I'm going to put that on top of our paper here.
And that was a 12 by 12 sheet that you cut down?
It was. I wanted it to actually go in the middle of this 11 by 14 frame. So I did size the paper, and I saved the 3-inch strip that I cut off because we're going to use that somewhere else.
I love using scraps. And you're just now using a double-sided adhesive.
It's a double-sided permanent tape, and I'm going to put the photograph in the top corner of the inkjet transparency sheet. So that's going to go there. Now, Julie, if you would hand me the little pink mat that you have there we go, right in front of you, because that's going to go on next. And again, I'm using the double-sided permanent tape. We don't want repositionable because we don't want it to move once we've done it, right? And then on top of this, I'm actually going to use a piece of this. And I need a piece that's 3 3/4 inches. Let me just slide that over with the metal ruler.
And you are working on a cutting mat.
A cutting mat. And I'm using the measurements on the cutting mat as my guide for the ruler.
Now,
so I don't actually have to measure.
Before, right? Was that a die cut, or
I used a die to cut out this to cut out the mat.
You just put
so
through
that's
a cutting
going to go on next. And you know what? I am going to put a little bit of glue here just to hold it. But I'll show you exactly what is going to hold this in place in just 1 second, Julie. Okay, so we're going to put this down. And again, we're using up our scraps.
And I like that you're using a portion of the paper that was in the background because, again, it ties everything together. It makes the design and the coordination so easy. It already goes. It was part of it in the first place.
Right. Now then, and now I'm going to attach this over the top. And Julie, if you would attach me that piece of foam board right there, let me just show you a little trick because I'm going to use some brads, but I'm going to put it on top of this, and I'm going to make a hole first with the point of the craft knife.
I was going to say, attaching clear things is always so difficult.
Exactly. We'd put the brads in here. Now I have some little butterflies, and I also used a die, and I cut these out with the die, and I colored them from the inkjet transparency paper, and I'm just using a single spot, and we'll put that butterfly right there. But you know what? Let's go ahead and jazz up the foam board. Let's set that aside there, Julie. And I'm using a sea sponge, and I'm using regular pink craft paint. We're going to mix that together.
So you're just mixing acrylic paint with some glue, and you're dabbing up and down with that sea sponge.
Right, and very, very lightly, Julie, so you get that little spider effect. But we're going to add a little sparkle to this too.
Ooh.
I've got some extra fine glitter here, and I'm just going to sprinkle it over the top. And that's why we have the glue mixed with the paint. And you can use any color, of course.
That's a great idea. And look, we've just popped it into one of the wooden frames, just like the ones we have on the set. Easy peasy. And we'll be right back.